Yeah, good morning, everybody. Welcome to SNSN. It is 8:53. We're starting a few minutes earlier than we had expected to be honest with you, but that's okay. We You tell them. We're live, so I don't care. Y'all can. Paul, you want to help him with the microphone? You want to? Yeah. There you go. Yeah. All right. So now we have members of the Economic Development Committee here. We have Chairman Tom Giard.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, Tom. We have Jim Barney. And we also have dual duty today, who not only is a host of the morning show, but he's also part of the EDC himself, Paul Lash.
Good morning.
So good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
We're going to talk about a few things, as far as the EDC is concerned and what's going on in town. Most notably, the data centers. I think we kind of hang back on that for a minute before when people can join into the discussion, because we'd like to go ahead and field questions, whether somebody wants to call or if somebody just wants to type them in social media, so we could go ahead and ask that of you. So Jim, let's start with you. How many years have you been on the Economic Development Committee?
I guess at this point, probably 5 or 6, Tom, I would think, maybe more.
I'd say that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And Tom, how long have you been on, and how long have you been chairman?
Well, I've been chairman for probably over 20, and I've been on for over 20. So.
Wow. Very nice. Very nice. And how about you, Paul?
Maybe what, close to 10, maybe?
Yeah.
I've been on a lot longer than Jim has.
Okay. So how many other people are on the EDC?
There's a total of 5 of us. Charlotte Gear.
Okay.
And Ken Busquet is they're the 4th and 5th members of the Economic Development Commission.
Okay.
Yep.
And who's the most active out of the bunch? Would it be you, Tom?
Tom.
Yeah, probably. As chairman, I'm the target, so to speak, or the connection.
The target
for when economic development. Yeah, you go. Economic development comes into the community. They talk to the town planner, they talk to the first selectman, they talk to me. And quite often, they talk to me and they have questions, and I go out and try to find answers for them.
Got it. Now, when he does that, they come back and discuss ideas with you guys, and you guys have a forum, or how does it work?
Usually, Jim and I have phone conversations, and he being the vice chairman needs to know what's going on, and Paul and Ken and Charlotte, we have our monthly meeting. Now we were off there for the better part of a year.
Yeah, how long has it been since? Not talking about this last meeting that just happened about a week or 2 weeks ago. How long has it been since you've had an EDC meeting?
I believe, if I recall, probably February of 20. So a year.
So before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, Tom, don't take this the wrong way, but I'm going to ask as a resident, why has there been such a long gap in meetings since just about every other committee and commission in town, has been able to meet virtually and share information? Well, why is the EDC taking a year off?
Oh, we didn't take a year off. Simply, we meet when there's business. Even though we have a monthly scheduled meeting, when the pandemic hit, everything went to holy heck, and there was just no phone calls, no economic development phone calls. So rather than drag people onto a Zoom meeting or whatever and sit there and say, "Hey, how are you?" There's no. Do
you think residents? I'm going to ask this of all you guys. I mean, do you think residents would have rather have heard, "Hey, there's nothing going on," instead of just not hearing anything at all?
Well, it's not that they're not hearing anything at all. I mean, you've got newspaper articles, you've got the selectmen issue, updates, planning and zoning. There was simply, not a whole lot of, I think, interest in, economic development over that whole year plus.
Do you agree or disagree, guys?
I tend to agree with it. There's another aspect of it also, and that is that a lot of confidentiality agreements
Mhm.
between the Board of Selectmen and the developer and the planner,
Okay.
so that we weren't necessarily privy to a lot of behind the scenes work.
The only reason I ask the question is because I get feedback, when I'm out and about, from residents and
Sure.
stuff like that. So,
Sure,
so I'm
understand.
not trying to be snippy or snide whatsoever. It's just they're just honest, straight up questions.
Well, I think that was one of the questions that came up at this last meeting was about these data centers. I mean, we knew it's been going on, at least we heard about it, but why wasn't the people of the town told about them? Well, the answer is confidentiality.
Right.
We couldn't
Yeah.
be told. So,
But it was all over Got Data's website.
just recently,
Yeah, just recently.
The
just
last-
recently,
at least a
it
month and a
wasn't-
half or
yeah.
so.
Yeah, a month and a half, because this is their updated website.
Gotcha.
Their previous website went down, they reorganized, and they came back, and what you're seeing today is new.
Got Data's website went down. Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
That's not promising.
Well, I mean, really, I think the first real
They took it down.
the first real public was a planning and zoning meeting. Not the last one, but the one before that. That's when the first word was really put out there in a public meeting.
I mean, just this last week.
No, the one before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Paul, do you have any questions as the interviewer or the interviewee? It's kind of confusing on what role you're going to play
I
this
know.
morning. So.
I think what Tom should do is, why don't you just go over what we kind of discussed at the, about the data centers. Maybe you can give some people some numbers at the meeting.
Well, I think we need to. I want to wait to the
on.
data centers.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are
okay.
people that are people that are floating in now.
Well, I think one of the things that I recently did, because one of the things I heard that through the station here was, I hope that the EDC does diligent and checks out other data centers in other areas. Okay, that was the one thing that I heard here. So what I did is I actually wrote 2 emails. I wrote an email to the person in charge of development service in Richmond, Texas.
Mhm.
And I also wrote another email to the person in economic development in Richmond, Virginia. The places that actually have data centers.
Right.
The guy in Richmond,
let's hear it. Connecticut has no data centers right now currently. There's 0 centers in Connecticut.
Zero.
Okay.
So I figured what I would do is I'd give these people to find out what was going on down there. The guy in Richmond, Texas, actually, we had a phone conversation. And he told me that they've had data centers since 2007.
Okay.
And they're all located on about 100 acres. And they're in industrial, they're all located in industrial areas. So I kind of asked them, people complaining about these things coming in. Yeah, at the beginning, there was some squawk going on, the data centers coming in, but they kind of cover it, because the other questions I asked them was, is there any noise coming out of these places? Because that seemed to be another issue that people were complaining about. And what he told me is there's really had been no noise complaints that he's aware of. The only thing that happens is they start up these generators, the backup. So you're going to get it's coming out of the backup generators. But other than that, that's been the only noise.
But that's only starting the generators for an hour or two.
Yeah,
as a test periodically
Yeah,
to
even
make
if-
sure it's up.
It's similar to your home generator systems, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, they'll start up automatically.
Yeah.
Because so that's the only noise that he was aware of. There's no traffic issues at all, because there's really not that many people in these buildings, so it's really no traffic problems to the town. No environmental issues. They don't use any town services at all. They're all independent. If they need to get some kind of services, they pay for them on their own. They're all independent, so no town services by any required by them. And he said that they're a little different, and I think Connecticut now is a little bit different, because they don't base everything on megawatts.
Right.
Everything is based on taxes. In other words, they do, just like your home here, that's how they do,
Right.
do things there. So that was the only difference that I found as far as the data centers go. I tried to find out how many megawatts are being used, but he
It's
couldn't
not a
answer.
data point that they're tracking.
Yeah, and they don't measure it because. And the other thing I kind of questioned too was, do they require municipalities? Are any municipalities involved? Because I thought here it seems like they were looking for municipalities, but down there they're just using the regular utilities that are part of the town. Whether it be he mentioned the name of the company was not something like an Eversource, but it was for that town.
Well, one of
I think,
Go ahead,
but yeah, let me point something out here. I think that's due to primarily the cost of electricity here
I
in
think
New
so.
England.
Yeah.
And whereas in the Midwest, they have solar farms and wind farms
Right.
and the utilities are cheaper.
Yeah.
So that's not as much of an issue.
And another point that I'll make is that you're right, Tom. I mean, they've got agreements with Jewett City, Groton, and the other local areas at Norwich that have their own utility companies. But the thing that's really important, I think, for our residents, as far as the power is concerned, okay, they're going to be using a lot of power, and that is going to spread the cost base for the fixed plant over a larger base,
Right.
so that will help to control electrical charges, hopefully for those that are serviced by the municipal electric
Yeah, I think the rate
co-ops.
increases would be minimal for residents because let's face it, right now, Jewish City depends on the residents for their revenue. Now, when you get these buildings coming in and you got a high utility use, it's certainly going to make it easy on the residents. That's for sure.
It's the same process as a school system. Okay, you've got a fixed plant cost whether you got 100 students or you got 1,000 students. So the larger the base, the lower your overhead per unit is.
Yeah.
That was the point I wanted to get across. And Tom, add to that.
Yeah, no, you guys are, right on the button. The opportunity for, and in organization that is able to purchase electricity at a discount, and they're going to be able to sell it to the data center folks at a discount.
Yeah.
So rather than plug into Eversource straight out, which would be a whole lot more cost for the amount of electricity they need, they're going to be able to purchase it much cheaper.
Yeah. Plus, I think they don't have to deal with Pura,
Right.
which is a little, because Pura has all these regulations. Now they're dealing with CMAQ, which is a little bit different. The restrictions aren't as bad as they are with Pura. So
Yeah,
I think
correct.
that makes it
Correct.
easier.
Yeah, and so the only towns they're really looking at are the ones that have the municipal co-ops.
That's correct.
Right. What you want to mention them, Joe? Which ones?
I don't know them all. There's Norwich. There's Jewett City. I think there's one in Groton.
Right.
There's one in East or West.
Wallingford.
Is that where it is?
Wallingford.
Wallingford or Waterford?
Wallingford.
Wallingford. And
Boswell is too, but I
and-
don't think there's anything going at Boswell.
yeah,
The other thing that you look at their website, they do have projected layouts, and most of the other communities can maybe accommodate 2-3 buildings, whereas Griswold's available land gets us up to anywhere from 12 to more buildings.
Right.
For the data center.
I don't know. I tried to stop this conversation. Y'all had other, I wanted to go other ways. You guys just kind of took over. So
Sure.
I just kind of, because we were having a video lag issue. So
Oh,
so there we go. But I don't know what to tell you. Keep going.
Oh.
Keep going. I really don't know where you're at right now.
I don't
because-
either. I thought you were taping.
Huh?
I thought
Yeah,
you-
yeah.
I thought you were taping.
Okay.
I think it'd be worthwhile. Not everyone probably in the community understands what a data center is.
yeah.
What is a data center? Anybody want to throw out there? Let's describe what happens. What what use do they have?
Well, I think if you compare it, if you take a common scenario of your home computer and you have a backup drive on your computer,
All right.
it's basically backing up the data that's on your on your computer. Well, these are basically the same thing. They hold data. They store data coming in from all sorts of and it's all fiber optics, so they go in. It's basically big, large storage units. You know, that's basically what they are.
So who uses them?
Well, to give you an example, when I talked to the guy in Texas, Bank America is one of their clients.
All right.
You know,
Amazon,
Yeah.
massive amounts of data.
yeah.
And Amazon is of course in the process of putting up a huge warehouse in Plainfield.
Yeah.
So I imagine that this is going to be an absolute perfect fit for the warehouse in Plainfield coming back for storing data right here in Griswold.
We're going to take a quick break. We're having some internet lag issues, and we'll be back in a minute right here on SNSN. Well, we're back now.
These questions from them.
Yeah, they're yeah. Well, the internet was laggy. No matter what I did, I mean the internet connection was right there. This laptop's just not picking it up. I don't know why.
Well, it's more than that. I think, Mike. My daughter is trying to work from home, and her internet is being continuously interrupted.
Yeah.
It's
Call overload.
probably.
I don't know what it is, but like even like it's very laggy, and the audio's there.
Yeah.
But and I am on an Ethernet connection right now. I'm not even on Wi-Fi. I mean, I can switch over to Wi-Fi.
But isn't that going to be worse than the?
So yeah, it's I don't know if there's a problem with my laptop, or I would hope not. It's a brand new laptop, and I have a. It seems like it's a little bit better right now. So don't move.
Well, you should go.
Don't move.
You should go down to Walmart and buy one of those $300 ones. They work fine.
Yeah, I wish. So anyway, we had pretty much everything on there, that we were talking about. Everything did kind of come through. It's just the video was pretty laggy. Now it seems like things have stabilized. So if anybody has any questions, you can give us a call at 860-591-1054. Rich Wasilek wanted to know what is this going to do to the tax base?
Well, it's going to obviously add significant amounts of tax revenue. the tax base. I'm not sure what the question means. Is it going to reduce your taxes? That comes down to the uh, town government, what they want to do with the increased revenue. It's not for us at EDC to talk about. But the buildings, we should talk about this, right, Jim? The
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah.
Why don't you
Yeah.
talk about the buildings?
Well, we're talking about a number of buildings at a couple of different sites here in town. The preliminary plans I've seen showed 3 buildings on one site of 32 megawatts, and 2 32 megawatts and 116 megawatt building on another site. The tax revenue that is being talked about is on the 16 megawatt sites is on in the order of 500,000, and on the 32 megawatt sites is on the order of $1 million. So that's equivalent to over on a 32 megawatt site. That's equivalent to over 1.3 mils in the tax rate. Okay. So that is significant, and the other side of that is the fact that there are no associated costs directly with those buildings. Now they're talking about 30 to 40 to 50 people in each building. Now these are huge buildings. There's very few people that takes to operate these buildings, and so there could potentially be a few more new homes built to accommodate these people, which may add a few students to the school. But when you look at that potential tax revenue, it's going to be a boon to the school, number one, because it'll be, we've been fighting for revenue both in the school and certainly on capital for as long as I've been involved in the capital committee, which is 9 years, I think. So I see this as a win-win for the town and the budgets, and the tax base.
I agree with you completely, Jim. The other side, as additional to that, is in our discussions in the presentation the other night at the EDC meeting, you did hear that infrastructure would be at their cost. Any road improvements, their cost. Extension of infrastructure, water, sewer, their cost. And the buildings themselves, you mentioned the size. If I recall, I was told that a typical 32 megawatt building is twice the size of a super Walmart. That's what it was described to me. That's a big layout.
Yep.
And what you said is correct. 40, 50, maybe as many as 60 employees, because these are 24/7 operations.
Yep.
So, and then they're secured buildings. They have security. They have fences and stuff like that. They're basically a big cement block, if you want to think of it. This is, I haven't seen one, but this is what was described to me.
All right, so there's a question on the board I want to ask you guys. I mean, we understand the building itself. I don't think that people are any question I get. They're not asking me what's the building looking like. They want to know how's it going to affect their tax base. That's really the only thing that I get here. It's like right now, aren't they being charged for the electricity with taxes up to a certain point? Is that being misunderstood? In other words, if it's under 16 megawatts, what do we get? What's the tier? Is it less than 500? Is it less than 500,000? Like, for example, Tom, if it goes, is it from 0 up to 16 megawatts where we get $500,000, and then 16.000001 to the next level? How does that work? I mean,
I'm not sure to answer that question. I don't know if anybody else knows.
I think we've seen the text document.
I think it's a graduated. Obviously, why would you pay $500,000 if you're putting out, 5 megawatts worth of power?
right, but does the town get nothing then?
Well, it's not.
Do they get nothing until 16 megawatts? I guess is the question.
No,
Well, let's look at it this way.
Okay.
Let's look at it a little differently. You're talking, the question is, in year 1, year 2, year 3, does it gradually go up? Okay. At the inception of the building permit, okay, before they put anything in the ground, like that, the town would be looking at about $4 million on a building permit per building. Am I right, Jim?
It's
that's-
$16 per thousand.
Right.
That's what it is. So
Right.
you
The town
can do the
planner,
math.
right. The town planner calculated the other evening on a 32 megawatt building, it would be 4 million plus, but we'll say 4 million for round numbers up front.
So are we
So-
talking 9 buildings, $36 million in fees?
That's
No.
potentially true.
All right. So you're saying
I
no,
don't
you're
think so.
saying yes.
You really think it's nine million per building?
No, it's 4.
So
He's saying nine.
the buildings are estimated at $400 million a piece.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, for the 32 megawatt buildings. All right.
right.
The 16 megawatt building will be somewhat less. Okay.
Right.
And I think it's 1626 per thousand for
Right.
for the thing. So you could take 400 million and probably you got to multiply that by the 0.7 factor for the assessed value. I'm not sure what that would work out
Right.
to be.
The quick number that we were given the other evening from the town planner, it's just basically $4 million up front, building
For the,
permit,
for the building permit.
building
Yeah.
permit.
Oh, I'm not
That's
poo-pooing this. I'm just wondering, is
Yeah.
it per building or is
Per
it
building.
overall?
That's
Per
per
building.
building.
per building.
No, do the
If
math.
you build one house, you pay a building permit. If you build 10 houses, you pay 10 building permits.
Right.
Same
Do we
thing
know
here.
the square footage of it?
I think I've heard that the buildings are gonna cover an area of approximately 2 acres for the 32 megawatt buildings, and that they're 2 floors. So if you get 2 acres ballpark, that's 160,000 square feet on a 32 megawatt building.
So you're talking roughly 320,000 square feet. If you look at 2 floors.
No.
Either
You-
way,
You get 2 acres. I roughed that at 2 acres is
Tom,
approximately
this is basically
80,000,
just
so double the
newfound
floors.
money.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
newfound money.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Right now, most of this property is being assessed as farmland or forestry or something else. And I think I heard one of the pieces of property is being, the taxes are $2,900 a year.
Mhm.
Okay. We're talking about a tax of somewheres around 1 million, $1 million per building. So if you put, even if you only put 3 buildings on it, you're talking about $3+ million in taxes for that piece of property, which is currently paying $2,900 a year.
It's roughly $2 million per building. And 132,000 square feet times 16 is roughly 2 million. What it comes out to.
That's still at 9 buildings. That's $18 million.
Yeah.
But they're not all going to be the same size. So 15 to 18 maybe is probably a fair range to say, which is not chump change.
15, 18 what?
Million, because the buildings are different sizes.
Yeah, at the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the projections I've seen for this town, I think it was eight buildings at 32 megawatts and 1 building at 16 megawatts.
Okay.
Right. I think the other piece of the puzzle is that the amount of land that they presently have under contract, they could build upwards of 18 to 20 buildings.
Yeah.
So
I heard that too. Yeah.
yeah, that's a significant amount of money.
phenomenal.
That's a big.
And what's the town budget? Around 27 million, right? Every year.
Well, I think if you round it up, it's
Just the town. I'm not talking about the
Oh,
education budget. I'm talking
no, the
just the
town
town.
budget's around 8 million, I think.
It's on
Oh, it's the education budget. It's about
Yeah.
27 million.
27, 28 million. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that is just from the taxes that are paid by the residents, or if that includes the plus or minus $10 million that comes in from the state. It probably includes the 10 million that comes in from the state.
I would think so. Yeah.
I mean, I think our overall budget is well, I can't remember for sure. I don't want to throw a number out there that I'm not correct on.
Will this affect the property values of the parcels around them?
You know,
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. given the fact that there's minimal traffic, there's no, from what we said, like Jim, I mean, Paul got that response from Texas. There's no lighting issues. There's no pollution. I don't think there's going to be a negative. The question basically most often is there going to be a negative
Right.
impact? I don't
Sure.
see it. I don't see it.
In the areas that we're talking about, and the fact that there's, you're talking about 160 acres in one place, you're talking about over 100 a second place. And I'm sure they're going to, number one, they want security. So they're not going to put their buildings on the property lines if they can possibly avoid
Right.
it. Okay.
Sure, of course not.
And the areas that we're talking about, there's not an awful lot of residential property there. And I don't, you chime in on this, Tom, if I'm wrong, but I mean, the people that are running this whole project, I mean, they've been talking to residents near these pieces of property and actually, I think, have been making offers on some of these properties. I don't know that for a fact, but I know they have been out there canvassing properties nearby.
Yeah, exactly. They've canvassed the area. They've talked to abutting property owners.
Yep.
In some cases, I think they've purchased or will be purchasing land, from maybe the abutting property owners that may have surplus land, let's say, and which, they have no intentions of clear cutting the forest or anything like that. This is going to be a clean industry that pays a lot of taxes.
Yeah.
And offers jobs. I mean, another thing is jobs for whatever community you're in is a primary focus of economic development. Jobs, taxes are one thing, but at the same time, we've all had economics 101, and as you spend that dollar the second and third time, that's
It's
payroll
referred
dollar.
to as velocity of money.
Right. Yeah. Payrolls have a multiplier of 3, typically in economic development. So if we're having, now we say employees, 60 employees, 40, 50, or 60 employees per building. So if you pull it out, let's round it off to say you've got 10 buildings. You could be looking at 600 jobs. And that's a significant impact to the salary base that's going to be spent locally.
Yeah.
So that's a big factor too.
And I think the other thing too is that all of these jobs are pretty much IT jobs.
Right.
They're all technology jobs,
They're all going to be well-paying jobs.
all well high-paid jobs. And the other thing, I think that the school eventually could benefit from that, because if you get a company like Microsoft or Google coming in here, you imagine the mentors that they could set up with the school.
Yep.
And it may say to the kids in this town, hey, maybe we got to move towards IT jobs. You know what I'm saying? And they may change some of the curriculum at the school to have it more towards IT. I mean,
STEM type jobs.
yeah, it's not going to happen immediately, but when you get big companies like that, a lot of those, they love to
They
mentor
invest.
kids. Mentor
They invest
kids.
in the
And not only
community.
that, they could be help out to the community.
Yep.
You get Microsoft in here and they say, oh man, they could help out with some.
But they're not really here. They're just renting space.
True, but there are employees here. You know what I'm saying, because the people running these data centers actually belong to the company.
All right, so
And
it's not.
part of the part of the infrastructure that's going to develop around them may be remote offices for companies like Amazon, Google, those major users of data. They may want to have employees themselves right near these data centers.
So what you're saying is that if somebody, like the pads that you have
Yep.
call them,
Yeah.
like say Amazon or Microsoft or Google or whoever, the people that are on those data center or that part, they're actually employees of Google and not got space data.
Got space data is they don't
They
run
don't own the
They
building.
don't own it. They own the building.
See now, okay, now that's
there's
right.
there's different scenarios.
okay.
They can build a building and sell it. They can build a building and lease it. So depending on the customer that they bring in from somewhere around the country, they'll have, traditionally they either like to rent, lease, or they purchase so that they own. So there's no set answer. And you may have within a given building several tenants.
Right.
You could have, not everybody needs.
It's like an apartment complex
Right,
almost.
Right.
It's like a strip mall.
Got it. Got it.
Same thing.
See, now the way I understood it was Got Space Data went ahead and built it. They rent out space. They operate the building.
They, in some cases, they lease out the building space. Yes, they don't have. It's my understanding.
They're a facilities manager. Would that be better way of putting it?
I don't think it's even that. I think if they lease it out, the leasee owns everything, runs the building. They just, you send me a check every month and you take care of the building, you take care of security, you set it up how you want to, you set the temperature you want, and so forth. So I think that's really the way it works. Got Space Data they're not in the business of, my understanding, renting out buildings. They find a customer comes in, but they're not that day to day like a landlord would be.
Right.
I mean, it's like a triple net lease if they're
Right,
leasing
right.
it out. The leasee is responsible for everything, repairs.
Right.
Got it. See, I didn't understand, how that actually worked. I thought it was Got Space Data. They would sell different portions of the building off to different
They
companies.
They may. I mean, they've talked to them. They either lease or they'll sell, depending on the customer. Now you might say, well, why the East Coast? Why here in Connecticut, New England? A lot of the potential clients are European companies, and with being as close to Europe, it's much quicker for Europe to communicate with the East Coast than it is Midwest or California.
Yeah.
So there's the time lag, and the old saying is time is money. And even though it's milliseconds or something, it's money. So we're in a prime location, being the East Coast, to benefit, and that's why they're here.
The other aspect of it is we're centrally located between New York and Boston, and there's a massive amount of data
Right.
moving between them.
Right.
And so putting us in the middle, as Tom was just referring to, yeah, you're talking about milliseconds, but when you got gigabytes of data moving every millisecond, terabytes, yeah. And what's the one after terabytes?
Cajillion. I don't know. I don't know what
So-
it is at that point. A lot.
Yeah.
So what do you've gotten some negativity from different residents? I know you got some negativity about the data centers.
I personally haven't gotten any negativity, Mike,
Well, I think social media
because
that's where it's coming from.
Well,
there are people that don't know what
Jeremy
they're talking
says
about.
it's petabytes.
Oh,
Petabytes.
Yeah.
Wow.
PETABYTES. And he would know because that's what he does.
I think you got
Yeah.
residents in the town who look at Griswold as a rural community, New England town, and they want to keep it woodsy and they don't want to move forward. But let's face it, folks,
I don't think they don't want to move forward.
I think they want to interrupt the environment.
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
You can't have both.
Exactly. Look at the gun range. They didn't want the gun range.
Right.
Well, if you don't want to interrupt the
Right.
environment, then we should not be building thousands of houses over the last 20 or 30 years, sucking up our farmland.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I think, in all honesty, most of the quote negativism is lack of understanding. When you say to somebody, okay, maybe we can reduce your tax rate, maybe we can improve the because of the income, the tax revenue, maybe we can improve the education system, we can improve the roads and the quality of the road system.
Mhm.
All of a sudden they change.
Yeah.
You're talking about things that are positive to them personally, and the concept of worrying about and especially we've talked about this now in depth today, the fact that we're not talking about a polluting industry.
Yeah.
You're not,
Yeah, that's a
that's
really
the
good
key.
point, Tom.
and that's what people have to really look at. We're not
Right,
polluting
yeah.
the environment.
I mean, we had people in here from in the economic development committee meetings and the roundtables we used to hold. Okay, that wanted to put up warehousing. All right. Now you're talking about you're talking about a huge amount of people and influx of traffic. Okay, this here, you don't have that.
No.
All right, and you're not tearing up the entire 100-acre parcel of property. I mean, how many parking spots are you going to need for 50 or 60 people? But if you got a huge warehouse with 1,000 employees,
well, not only that, Jim, you got truck traffic coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, you got trucks coming using our local roads to get to
every
the
day.
warehouse every day.
Yeah.
You know, so that's not going to happen.
So the people that are concerned environmentally, I mean, they ought to be behind this, because it's going to that's going to take and save the environment as much as anything else you could possibly do.
Plus, they're self-sufficient. They're not going to depend on the town of Griswold to provide them anything, because once the buildings are there, they're on their own. You know,
Right.
They're going to provide their own services to support their own buildings. It's not like we have to do that. You know.
So another question on the board, and I read these as they come in. I don't ad lib the questions, but here it is, and you'll know why when I read this one. I mentioned negativity from residents, or some of where it's coming from. One answer is the negativity comes from a lack of communication. There needs to be a broadcasting of meetings, and he says, like Mike has offered to provide. Now, I'm not picking this. I'm reading every single question that comes through.
Yep.
More info equals better knowledge. So, number one, streaming, I think, is important personally. That's the first thing. Second thing is, this Tom, you had mentioned, well, it's been in the Norwich Bolton. I got to be honest with you, Tom. The Norwich Bolton has no penetration.
It's next to useless.
It really is. So when people say it's in, okay, well, let me ask you a question, Tom. When you put it in a town meeting or something like that, how much bang for your buck do you get from the Norwich Bolton? Zero.
Yeah, no, there's no argument about the interest in the Bolton.
And I'm not even saying me. I'm just saying the paper.
But in response to the question that you just read, I absolutely agree with this person. Okay,
yeah, I know.
Information and education is the best thing we can have as a nation, and unfortunately, because of the confidentiality of much of what's been going on, we are not allowed to put that out there yet. Okay,
but now, you don't need to. You can still broadcast a meeting and still save, the integrity of the confidentiality.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing stopping a private entity like yourself from coming in and streaming it live thing. The town government is not set up at this point to, at least in my knowledge, to provide streaming on a regular basis.
My opinion is they don't want to pay for it.
Okay, maybe
you can have poor Dana Bennett. I mean, she runs around with a camera. Right. I mean, this lady, has been at Board of Finance meetings, running around with her camera, her iPhone, trying to get people, that's hard. That's really hard.
One of the reasons we're here today is that I asked Jim a couple of days ago, last week. I said, hey, what do you think about a little bit of PR work to get out the message on the data center? Because really, like, a lot of people don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. They don't know the impact in the community, the tax base, any pollution. They didn't know anything. They didn't even know what a database is, a data center. So we're here today. We might be back again. I think we're going to try to do a couple of public access appearances, right, Jim?
Yep.
And we are available for questions. Anybody, I'm in the phone book. I'm online. Anybody can send me an email. They can pick up the phone and call. I think that's the one thing that maybe gets lost. Jim's and people can contact us. So if you don't understand something, you have a question. I get phone calls from economic individuals, businesses. They call and they say, tell me about Griswold, tell me about the tax base, tell me about the people, so forth like that. That's great. They call, but I don't get citizens that call.
To your point, I will say that no matter where you put it out there, Paul, how many times have we joked about this? It needs to be spoon-fed. Spoon-fed.
Oh, I agree.
The thing we've come up with is, like, you knock on somebody's door. Hi, I'm Paul Ash, and I'm here with your Griswold News update. Give them an update, and then you feel like you got to go to the next door.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Paul Ash with your Griswold News update. Because no matter where you put it out, I mean, there are.
That's why you have a variety of streams.
Right. There are
information.
mediums that will penetrate more, and there are ones that will penetrate less. The thing is that what Jim listens to or reads is not the same thing that maybe I listen to or read. There are too many. But the thing is the information is out there.
Right.
It is out there. People just need to know where to look. And they don't. And I hate to say it, but even at home, Melissa, she'll just go up and down, thumb scroll. And I tell her, you know what's going on? No. Well, you're not going to know unless it comes up in your newsfeed, right? And I hate to use her as an example, but it's true. You still have to go. People don't go to websites anymore.
Yeah, I think too, moving off to a slightly different subject, as a population, we don't really spend enough time listening to an explanation. We see a flash and we move on. And that is a big part of our society right now, to the detriment, is we don't get, and then we take a splash from here, a splash from there, and we put it together with an idea, and it may be far off base so far that you don't know.
It's like the old party game you used to play when you were a kid. You whisper in the first person's ear, and by the time it gets to the fourth person, there's no semblance of what was said by the first person.
Right.
Yeah. And how many times have we talked about it? People live in 160 characters or less.
Yep.
That's right.
And then you always got people on social media who know very little about what's going on, think they're experts, and then they start misinformation out there, and everybody's got the wrong idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, I'll put in a plug for economic development. Okay, we hold our meetings the third Wednesday of every month, starting again last month.
Yep.
And that's at 7 p.m. at the main meeting room in the town hall.
Gotcha. Jeremy, who is an IT guy, who's following the group, because another benefit is that the electrical grid and the internet in the area is going to be needed to be upgraded to support the data, which is also going to help the rest of the area.
Correct.
That's a good point.
We've heard that there'll be a strong 5G impact. I think, Jim, you and I've talked about that.
Yeah, I think the bigger impact is going to be the fiber optics network.
Right, correct.
That will be distributed more widely, and
right.
I just think that everything that all the negativity that has come out, and I say negativity meaning the negative comments regarding the data centers.
Well, I'm not sure you're classifying them as negative. I think they're more inquisitive. I think there's more of a educate me. I don't really understand it.
Oh no! Well, look at social media; they're pretty freaking negative.
Yeah.
They are
again,
really bad.
Is it because they don't understand it?
Yeah.
Well, the rest of the statement that I was trying to make is because all of those negative comments have been debunked.
Right.
Every single one has been
right.
debunked, and to your point, you said that this is a great thing for the town, and I agree with you. And this is something that has been in the works for quite some time. This is not something that just popped up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
And as an aside, again, some people have complained about, well, we approved bonding for for some infrastructure work, okay, which the USDA they just keep throwing roadblocks at
Right.
us. And not only that,
explain why we're working with USDA to begin with.
well, that's to get some bonding money, some actual grant money, and also possibly some low interest loans to install this infrastructure
which is not bonding. Bonding money is more expensive.
Yes, that's correct.
So in other words, go ahead.
And so we've been dragging our feet a little bit on that, knowing that this stuff was developing, and if that infrastructure is not already installed, then these companies, because the infrastructure costs to these companies that are talking about here, it's insignificant to them in the whole project. So they've just completely stated, if the infrastructure isn't there, we're going to put it in. They're not going to, they're not going to let tens of billions of dollars worth of of stuff not happen because you don't have a $1.5 million sewer line.
Well, this is why I
someplace.
asked the question at the EDC meeting. Are we just waiting for them to do it so that Griswold doesn't have to
Well,
pound
no,
that and
that's-
spend their
That's
money?
you got a good point, but they're only going to go as far as their own buildings. We still
Right, but
need to go
instead of-
down. We
Right.
still need to go down 164. So the USDA stuff is still important. Still needs to get done so we can go further down 164 to the other project.
But it will not be anywhere near the cost that.
Correct.
I'm not complaining. I say
No,
let
you're
them
right.
do it. Let them carry the bag. I don't. I mean, trust me. I mean, I don't want you to think I'm trying to be devil's
No, I understand what you're
advocate
saying.
here.
Yeah.
I
We're
think
not
what you
beating on
guys are. Huh?
We're not beating on you.
No,
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 no.
no, no. I don't. I think what you guys are doing is awesome because I get to talk to you. I don't really get to talk to you much,
Yep.
but I do get to talk to Paul and I do get to talk to Jim, and I'm thinking this is amazing for this town. And I want to make sure that everybody hears it. Dana Bennett just makes a comment talking about the expansion of of any kind of information. It takes most people 7 times to hear something, which is absolutely correct. At least 7. To understand and remember information, many different avenues are helpful. And I think now this is my own personal little soapbox statement here. Dana, I agree with you 150%. But when the town's spending money to get information out on lower forms of media that people don't pay attention to, instead of spending money on getting, I'm not even talking about me, could be pay Dana Bennett, to run around with her iPhone. That's frustrating to a local business. Very frustrating to a local
Sure.
business. Yet they want support, but I don't see the Norwich Bulletin coming in here with cameras.
No.
I don't see the New London Day coming in here with cameras.
No.
Okay. I see me. I see Austin. I see people like Chris Goodenough, running around with cameras.
Sure.
And stuff like that, and trying to go ahead and get information out there. But the town spends money on lesser desired media. Why?
Well, when you say the town spends money on lesser desired media, do you want to explore that with me just a
Norwich Bulletin.
Okay, well, you're talking, if I'm assuming you're talking about, we have to make publish announcements about
Mhm.
various things, okay? And that I don't know whether streaming would cover that, but that's an interesting question that we should figure out. And of course, everything has to do with budgeting and money. Ed Burdick and I and yourself, we spent quite a bit of time
Yeah.
like 2 years ago when there was grant money out there to try and get all of the equipment that we needed, okay, to do all of this streaming. The problem was we could get the equipment. Who was going to operate it? All right. Mike's not going to operate it for free when he's trying to make a living. Okay.
Nobody's going to.
We talked about possibly using students from the school, but I don't know what happened with that.
Inconsistencies.
Okay.
What's going to happen is town can go out and spend $5,000 on this lovely equipment. What do you think is going to happen?
It's going to be packed in a closet and sit there.
Yeah, or some student may say, I'll come and do it today. Are you going to come today, Joe? No, I can't make it. I got an Xbox tournament. I gotta go ahead and attend. And what happens? There's inconsistencies. You need somebody that's going to be. And I don't even mean me. I'm saying somebody.
Okay, right, and that spins off to other areas
Mhm.
as much as we have openings on various commissions.
Yep.
Over the years, and we don't have enough volunteers.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
that's a fact. So, if you want to be, if you're a taxpayer and you want to be, so to speak, in the know, come in to volunteer. Attend some of the meetings. All of the stuff that happens basically is on the town website at the same time. So agendas are out there. Information, about Patchogue Pod is out there. It's gonna, whether there's a meeting coming up or something like that. So you have to check those websites too. You have to look for the information.
And I know that, but in all due respect, for years people aren't, and they've proven that they're not going to. Yet we keep saying, do this, do this,
but
and they're not.
We end up getting the thrown back at us that we're not doing enough to get the information out. But on the same token, there's a responsibility to go search a little bit.
Exactly. It's
I-
like you said
I've
earlier,
said that
you said
too.
the spoon, they want to be spoon fed.
Right.
Well, get away from the TV and throw your iPhone away and come to a meeting now and then, and you'll find out what's going on.
Right.
But,
We up until the pandemic for years, Jim pointed out when we have our meeting, what time it's in the same location. We'd have Zippo, nobody come to the meetings,
Mhm.
nothing, nobody out there, right? Sit there, you know that, Jim,
Yeah,
Paul?
yeah.
And we sit there. Now,
This last meeting is the first meeting I can recall.
and how do you think that happened?
Because of the scuttlebutt about data centers.
right,
Ask Paul. He's smirking already. I put a comment out there. So you want data centers, huh? That's what I put. And all of a sudden it started to boom, 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 boom.
right.
The point is that we can talk about the Norwich Bolton and their penetration. Okay, and that's the first thing. We can talk about public access. Well, guess what? You got to have cable TV to even get public access, right? But how many people have Dish Network? You know, how many people have YouTube TV?
Yeah.
Right. You're not getting public access is my point.
No, you're
No.
not.
So it's like how many people are really seeing it? So, trucking yourself down to Waterford, to go ahead and Ed Burdick, guess what? He's gonna start doing a show here. Down in the studio downstairs where the green screen is.
Well,
I showed it to him yesterday. He's like,
that's-
absolutely, he's got to finish up with the census and he's gonna go ahead and do that.
that's great because I mean I've gone down to Waterford or wherever the heck it is the studio is a few times with them to do programs, and it's a pain.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do them right here.
Yeah.
And not only that, I mean we can either do them live or we can do them recorded so that it's convenient for the people that you're bringing in as
You can
guests.
do either way, and which is the wonderful part of this. And Dana Bennett, another comment she put, because people are busy, can't always attend meetings. It's not cookie cutter 9 to 5 anymore. It's just not. They can watch recorded meetings later, which is true. All of the stuff that we do is online. I tell people, let's say, well, what's going on with this?
I mean, I'm on somewheres around close to 7 different boards and commissions in this town. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nightmare. I'll tell you. I mean, we're juggling meal times to try and accommodate a 5 o'clock meeting with the senior center or a 6 o'clock meeting with somebody else. I mean, our meal schedule is in total disarray.
Sure. Look at
And that-
Foxwoods'
and-
schedules, their
And that-
shifts, the
and
way
that
they work.
drives my beloved crazy, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, I understand.
All right, what time are we going to eat tonight? Well,
There's
you're
no
not going to
cookie
be
cutter
here.
time.
You're not going to
Yeah.
be here at 5:30, and my grandson isn't going to be here until 6.
Yeah.
And I got to be gone by then.
So like Foxwoods, for example, if you work in the cage, one of the shifts that they have that's great is 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. Day shift is like 10 to 7, or not swing, but like
7
9
to
to
3:30 if you're in manufacturing.
one of
and
them.
Stuff,
Oh, yeah.
But typically the office is somewhere around 8:30 or 9 to 5.
what if you're a state worker, or CO, state policeman, third shift, you're working 11 to 7.
Yeah.
There's no more real 9. I mean, there's very minimal 9 to 5.
Right, fewer jobs.
Okay, Beth Ann just is chiming in right now, and I don't think she's seen or heard what we've had to say yet, because she's joining in at this point, which is cool. Okay, if there's no surprise, there must be a place of land or that's already been picked, and that is true. That's Bishop Crossing, correct? And Route 164.
Yeah.
Rood Road.
Oh,
No.
I don't know where
Bishop
Rood
Crossing.
Road keeps coming
Okay.
into it.
Yeah, 201 and then
Okay. They talk about noise. How much noise is there with 50,000 chickens on Bishop Crossing?
Yeah.
And then they talk about the environment.
Yeah.
Well, how much shit is there from 50,000 chickens?
Well, let me tell you, a lot of hundreds of tons because I've shoveled much of it in my life.
So what are you going to say?
No, I was going to say, because when I talked to the person in Texas and asked them specifically about noise complaints, there really isn't any noise at all other than the startup generators, which you're
Yeah.
going to hear occasionally when they start up, which is on some schedule,
Yeah.
and they are not quiet. I mean, if you ever hear a diesel generator start up, they're not like your home one where it's running on gas, these are diesel generators. And there's a little noise to those, but
Yeah.
how often do they start up?
The description at the meeting, the presentation that they did, even touched upon that there's different baffling ways of, quieting down a diesel
Right.
generator, that you wouldn't hear it more than 25 feet away. I forget the number, but that was kind of what he was saying. And, and then, as we said earlier, whatever natural trees, barriers are going to be left up. So you're going to have the effort and the expense of muffling any sound. And then on top of that, leaving the environment locally the same.
Mhm.
So I don't think noise is going to be any kind of an issue.
Oh, I agree. But there have been some questions
Yeah, I don't
regarding
believe it's
Right.
gonna be
Yeah,
a noise
that's
issue.
what we're answering the question.
Yeah.
and the cooling and the air conditioners firing up.
No, you're not going to hear that.
But which was a very important point at the meeting, where the gentleman said that one of the nice parts about these data centers in these areas with Four Seasons. So really,
Right.
there's only a few months where they're really going to have to cool.
Well, how many people that are out there working in an office building? Okay. Now, does your office building run at 100 degrees and 90 degrees? Okay. You got air conditioning. Does that air
Right.
conditioning bother you when you're sitting in the office underneath it? It doesn't bother
Well,
you.
if you walk outside the building, I mean, a lot of buildings are not 12 stories high. A lot of them are only like 2 stories high. You walk outside your office building, do you hear it running? Probably not.
Hell, my furnace at home, when it kicks on, it goes dunk.
That's it.
So
Yeah. I mean, I would think that these
Whatever.
generators wouldn't be any more than a trailer truck or a truck starting up. If
uh,
anything.
another comment: the info was put out there on social media, and people responded. That is the reality of today. It needs to be put on social media. Time to come to today's standards. And also, I am not a fan of social media.
Yeah.
That is another comment. So basically, things have changed. You know what I mean? It's not the same where people would go to St. Mary's Church. They'd go huck it down, do ceremonies, and get fresh bread, and a Boston cream donut on a Sunday. Bring it home with the Norwich Bulletin because you wanted all the coupons, and you sit down and you listen to polkas on WICH.
And
It's
to
not
be
the way
hon-
it is anymore.
You know, to
No.
be honest with you, Mike,
No.
the only reason, the major reason we bought the bulletin for as long as we did was the coupons for shopping, and
Bits.
the occasional mini paragraph about something that might have happened here in Jewett City or
Yeah.
Griswold.
And did you know they only have one writer out of Norwich now? There's nobody who covers Jewett City anymore.
No.
You got to call them and say, "Hey, we got an event,"
Yeah.
and that they don't know. You still have John Shishmanian, who's an amazing photographer, but they don't have. They have a couple freelance people. That's it.
Yeah.
Because they don't even print it there. I mean, they haven't for a long time, but their offices are actually in Newport.
Well, I the comment about social media, and again, I have nothing to do with social media, but that's largely just an audio transfer of information. And as we already know, one person hears it and they come up with one opinion, somebody else hears it, comes up with another opinion. So pretty soon you got a lot of garbage there. The video streaming to me would seem to be a better media to do it, because I think that if you have a visual picture of something, you retain that much better than you're going to retain some spoken words.
Yeah. But I think social media is the way of the future. Unfortunately, people at our age, social media doesn't mean anything to them. You're not even on it. You don't care about it. But the people in the town who, I don't know what the average age is in town, but maybe 60, 50, 40, what do they use?
There are definitely more older people in Griswold than there are younger people.
Oh, there are.
Oh,
I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
But,
Absolutely. A
but
lot of
even
old
some
money here.
But even some of the older people actually have phones. You know what I'm saying? They're not flip phones. They're actually phones, and that's what they use to communicate with. So, it's
It's a dangerous situation we're living in. And as much as we're sitting here, 4 people, and we have a basic understanding of the community and what's going on. And I'm not on Facebook. Any of you guys on?
I'm not.
Paul is.
I am.
Paul's?
But
Okay.
but Not,
the reason why I'm on it because
you're more trolling. You'll
yeah, I
troll
do.
it.
I don't really
Yeah.
like because when I did make comments, people got on my butt because they didn't like what I said. So
Paul would only comment when he's pissed.
Okay.
yeah, and I have.
Well, the point I'm making is that if you have X number of people, you have an X number of opinions. Those opinions are based on information that may not be totally correct,
Mhm.
and they spins off into their own mental state. And if we're going in that direction, it's a disaster waiting to happen because we're never going to get the correct information out there on a wide scale basis. Simply isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's not a good thing.
Yeah, that's why if we see it, we need to correct it to make sure that it's right. Because a lot of people think they know it all, but they don't know anything.
Well, that's why these discussions are important.
Correct.
Right. Great.
You know, because if I say something wrong, Tom can correct me right here, right now.
Right.
You know, or vice versa, or you know, with me and you, or Jim. There's been many times where Jim has said, "No, that's not necessarily true."
Right.
I mean, one of the things we've tried to do for 5 years or more, I've been carrying an electronic sign to put up in front of the town hall, kind of right there, so that people can see messages. You could post meeting schedules and stuff like that.
Great idea.
But we can't get the money appropriated. I mean, as I keep bitching about, the capital improvement plan is the sacrificial lamb all the time.
Well, maybe if the data centers go through, you'll get your sign, Jim. You know,
it's very likely.
I think the school actually has one that they're getting. I can't remember if it's a grant they got for it or not. I think the town has a grant request in for one also, but I'm not sure.
Griswold Fire Department has a really nice one.
They put up.
Yeah.
They did that. They did that on their own money.
It's like $8,000.
Is that what it cost?
Something I think it was in the ballpark of $7,000-8,000.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Fred Marzak did the masonry work on it or somebody.
Oh, I don't know.
Some
who installed
volunteer
it,
did.
but
Yeah, somebody did. The
nice sign
masonry
though.
work. Yeah,
It looks very good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read one more comment, and then I'm gonna see if you guys have any closing comments because we're just about 10 o'clock here. Dan Pierre says, not everyone is on social media. It should be located on a primary website and then simulcast to social media. That way, anybody with internet access is able to log in and view the meetings. Simulcasting is the key as one you want. Simulcasting is the key as one you want social media. I'm just reading this to reach the larger crowds, but having it on the town's website would also bring in viewers that have no or little access to social media.
Well, speaking of the town's website is, in my opinion, is extremely cumbersome to use.
They don't have a problem with it.
It
To
needs,
get it fixed though. I heard they're building a new one.
Reworking it, yeah.
They're working on a brand new one.
well, I hope they got somebody professional that
They
knows
do.
what
I
they're
think they
doing.
do. They are working on it.
I heard they were too. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was at the selectman. It was on the
Tom,
agenda
I
a
think
couple of
Tom
times.
told
Yeah.
us when he came in to talk to us.
Yeah.
They are working on a new one.
I personally don't have a problem with it now. So I've learned how to bounce around and stuff. I think the biggest pain in the ass for me about the town's website is that if you want anything to do with, like Board of Education minutes or agendas, you got to click and go to a different website.
Yeah.
Instead of having it. Well, it's kind of the same thing. All you do is click. But
I mean, there could be a button on the town website that you click that and it immediately brings you to the Board of Ed.
the nice thing about like this right here, what we're doing here, is that it's on different forms of social media simulcast right now.
Right.
It's on multiple platforms, and it stays there, so it can I can just share it again and again. That's where the views accumulate, is after the fact. I mean, we'll have a couple hundred people watch it now, but then you're talking, it grows exponentially, especially on YouTube. YouTube is where where the big views come. Not, believe it or not, it's not Facebook. It's really not even Facebook. Facebook is like in the now.
I mean, shortly, my understanding is shortly, and when I say shortly, probably within 10 days to 2 weeks, there should be a major announcement from GOT Space Data.
Gotcha.
Okay. And at that point, everything hopefully will be out there. And then we can have a more rigorous and
Robust conversation.
Yeah.
All right. I doubt. I'll disagree with a couple of weeks. I think we're looking more maybe mid-July.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
Paul, any parting comments for today? Or
No, I said my piece.
Anybody else? Tom, anything else that you want
No,
to
I just,
mention?
you know, I'll just put it out there, like Jim said, come to the meetings. The agendas are posted on the town's website. We're available, call, ask questions, and, you know, wherever we can answer, or if we don't know, we'll go get the answer.
Got it. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. I really appreciate, Tom, you taking out your time, to come here this morning.
No problem.
Jim, as always, we appreciate you coming in. And
I'm
yeah,
always here.
whatever, Lash. Anyway, thanks for joining us. If you missed any part of this broadcast, you can also check out the replay either on Facebook, Twitch, Discord, or YouTube. So it's all there. It's on many platforms, and that's that. So it's always going to be out there at a touch of a button. Have a good day, everybody.
Streaming 24/7. Saluting our healthcare professionals. Thank you. Streaming.